Well, the whole plan for this show got thrown out the window when our former president got shot at, so we're going to go over that. We're going to go over a few other things and a few thoughts on my mind heading into now the closing stages of the 2024 election. Let's get talking to it.
This thing that's in my brain, it keeps me from wanting to go on, but I want some gain. Maybe a little fame. Yeah, oh yeah.
So, for those that were paying attention over the past few weeks, we had a lot of things going on. I really wanted to do a show that was centered around a debate that was going to talk about how I thought that Trump took quite a step forward, just in general, policy-wise. Seemed like he was on his game. Seemed like he was back into a Trump that wanted to win the race and not just one that was in there for his own selfish reasons, and a Biden that floundered. Things got a little rocky. It's unfortunate. I want you guys to go back to an episode, and I'll link it in the description when I find out which one it was, but I did call this back. We were talking about the Trump cases and him getting indicted, 34 felony counts. There's an escalation that occurs, right? So when he was president, he got impeached. He was brought out on numerous false accusations going from Russia, things with Zelensky. False statements about Trump happen all the time, and some are true, some land, but most of them come out false. And to see the storm, so you go from impeachment to now he's getting tried in court, trying to get him indicted and throw him in jail. The logical next step, if that's not going to work, if he's going to win this election, which it seems more and more likely that he is, I think I mentioned this on the show, and if I didn't, I should have. The logical next step was to attempt to kill him. And that's what we saw over this weekend. It's unfortunate. I just want to say on the outfront, prayers go out to the families. We had one innocent bystander killed, 2 more critically wounded. I'm not sure about their condition. I'll try to update it in the description again. But this was an assassination attempt on a president, one which we have not seen anything the likes of since 1981, going back to Ronald Reagan, which is an interesting comp in my opinion when you look back on it, and how grave of a day, just how important of a day Saturday has now become in this history book. And to think the honest truth, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, I wasn't shocked. And again, if I allude back to that episode, it was the logical next step. Seeking his death so that he could not possibly win is the next logical step if you've used every single chance to remove him legally. Right? I'm not trying to accuse any side of this. The shooter acted in their own right, and that's something to be noted. This is some individual, and something, if you weren't following this, I do want to put up a clip of the shooting, so I want all the warnings, fair warnings. If you haven't seen the video, it is graphic, but also just stunning. You're watching, if you haven't seen it, this Zapruder film from JFK Assassination. It's a very similar vibe from that. Now, go ahead and take a look at this. Give me your thoughts in the description. I'll give you a minute.
Oh, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened. Oh.
Move it to the air. Hold. When you're ready. On you.
Ready?
Move.
Up.
Move. Go.
Up. Hawkeye's here.
Hawkeye's here. Move it to the stair.
Stair, get ready. Stair, get ready.
We ready?
Shooters down. Shooters down.
Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move?
Shooters down. We're good to move. We're
Let's
clear.
move. Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we gotta move to the cars. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down. My shoes.
Watch out.
Wait.
So after seeing that film and hearing it, hopefully what you hear there, if you're documenting it just based on audio, because it's hard to see, Trump kind of grabs at his ear, gets swallowed up by Secret Service. The thing that you hear is bang, 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 at least 3. Little pause, bang, 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 back. And allegedly, this is what happened, transpired. So we have at least 3 shots coming from the alleged gunman, then at least 3 shots, and then a follow-up shot coming from the Secret Service sniping position. What this means is that, in all likelihood, eyes were on the gunman before he pulled the trigger. That hasn't been proven. All right. I have seen forewarning. This is total, not verified. This is kind of conspiracy, I would say, in a way. But I have seen a post that looked like 4chan or 8chan, one of those things with all the subs and the numbers and all that shit. I don't actually use these sites. I just saw someone post it. But basically, someone had posted what seemed like an affidavit from one of the Secret Service agents who was working that detail, and eyes were on, scope was on. They were ordered not to shoot until there were rounds coming out, and even then, I don't think the order to shoot back was given, and that was done on their own right. Now, again, that's totally conspiracy, really, at this point. No proof, and I don't know if that'll ever get proven true, but the point being is that the training is always to be reactive, and this has been proven by now the lead in the Secret Service. Their whole intent is to be reactive, right? React well, but you don't want to, I believe the quote was, we don't want to end up shooting someone. It turns out they were on the roof with a telescope. Well, that's kind of asinine. And we're talking about someone who, we'll get into it a little bit later, but someone who is as chastised in mainstream media, even just the mainstream discourse, as Donald Trump is, for being on with ourselves, he should be more protected than he was. A little bit more screening, all right, no rooftops, but beside the point. Now, something that's been a main point, if you've been paying attention online, if you've seen this stuff, I want to put a few screen caps of tweets that I saw that were kind of disturbing. There have been a lot of people jumping to conclusions on both sides of the aisle, of course, and it's been disturbing. I tweeted out that this is the reason that I think it's great. Excuse me. This is the reason that I think it's great that we have a republic, not a democracy. Because there are a certain amount of people now, thankfully Trump survived this assassination attempt. There are people who, I think regardless of him surviving or not, are ready to go and shoot back. And that's what democracy kind of yields. When you have that mob rule, when you have that quick to react mentality, you're very emotional. You want to react based on the events that just occurred, and the event that just occurred is an assassination attempt on what a lot of people see as their leader, as the person to lead them out of the mess that we're in. Obviously, to each his own. Haven't been the greatest fan of Trump, but I will say, leaning more and more every single day towards voting for this man. I have to say it's because of the persecution that he's surviving through. Again, I'm not trying to allude that the shooter was in any way connected with the left at all. I do think that this person acted completely individually, at least from the facts that are on the ground now. That being said, the attacks that he's gone through from the left, from day one, as he gets in office, attacked with fake information, trying to bring him down with a totally fake hijinks paid for plan. And then on top of that, going through getting impeached, going through COVID, which I don't think any president could react to COVID properly, getting through COVID, not getting elected in 2020, and dealing with the barrage of things, right? So January 6th, you can or cannot attribute that to him. It's kind of a personal opinion matter, but to say he was criminally liable for what happened that day, I believe the only person to die was one of the protesters. So if that's the case, it's really not much to be really held liable for. And you go into all the trials that have been going on, whether you support or don't support them. What I've seen is that they're definitely not something that would convict anybody else in the past, and this is very singling out of Donald Trump. Use the court system, use malign him. We've all heard the language. I'll post an article that was just posted about a week ago that was comparing him to Hitler and drew him as a Hitler with a Hitler mustache. When the rhetoric does get this, and this is something that's been echoed throughout the right wing of social media, is that if you're going to call a guy Hitler, you're going to compare him to Hitler for 8 years now. If that's how you're going to talk about a man, you can't be surprised when someone's going to take an attempt at his life. Again, it's not to say that someone was paid for this guy or this was an op. I'm not trying to say any of that because, to be honest, there's really no facts. And to be honest with you guys again, there ain't going to be any facts, right? There's a very good chance that this was staged, whether it was staged by Trump or staged by someone trying to get Trump. There's a good chance that there's a hell of a conspiracy behind this, and this is not just one guy. But none of that information is really ever going to come out, and I'm just being upfront and honest with you guys, right? You can make any inferences that you want with it, but I think the true facts on the ground that need to be, I believe, understood is something like this. Former president was attacked, who was attempted on his life, and there were people that died at that rally, right, as a result of this gunman's shots. With that being the case, I think it's pretty serious that we as a nation need to keep in mind that the language that we use, which is something that we try to watch here, especially on the show, the language is not to compare someone, say, to the devil, to the worst person that you have an idea of. And for a lot of people in our time, it's Hitler, which is odd because you have someone like Stalin or Mao who could be attributing millions, if not tens of millions, possibly hundreds of millions, more deaths than Hitler. It's interesting that we're going to call him the Hitler. That being said, can't be surprised when you compare someone to Hitler all the time that somebody wants to kill him. And I think that it's very possible that this culmination of this language and this rhetoric, which everyone's going to address now, has to be taken care of. It's one of the things that people wanted to call back to on the left and in mainstream media that is left-leaning. So your CNNs, there were a lot of them calling for the rhetoric of Trump to be checked after this. And I don't know if you guys saw it. I will try to put a couple headlines up here. There were multiple headlines that just didn't report the fact that he was shot. There were some that said he fell down, some that there were loud noises heard, and then he had to take cover with Secret Service. For something like this, for a time like this, for that to happen, right? For us not to take seriously an attempt on a former president's life, regardless of how we feel about that president, it's pretty indicative of temperature, I would say, of politics. And if you were scrolling Twitter this morning, it was interesting. So last night I got the red pill Twitter, which was all, we got Trump, we're all supporting Trump, blah, 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 all supporting Elon Musk, even endorsed the guy. And I think it was the most liked tweet of all time, and if not, it's heading towards it. Then this morning, I don't know if you guys experienced the same thing, the opposite. I'm curious. Let me know what you had. When I opened up X in the morning and I'm scrolling through, I saw almost everybody on my timeline was saying this is conspiracy, this is obviously fake, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. And again, I'll just allude to the fact that somebody died. 2 people are in the hospital, not sure about their condition, and we pray for them and we hope that they get better and they can recover, just like we do Trump. I hope you pray that Trump recovers, regardless of how you feel about him personally. I don't think that anybody in America is deserving of being shot at for their politics, right? For an action, or for, you can always make an argument for someone who is a child rapist that they should earn the death penalty, and I'll be right there with you. But for someone to be upset by someone's words, for someone to be upset by someone's presidency, there's a lot of people on the left now, and I say the left very broadly, and I'll kind of redefine this. There's a lot of people that are extremists when it comes to politics. They might not even be on the left or the right, but they're so extreme on one issue. And one of those issues that I want to bring up here that I think is relevant is genocide. There are a lot of people that, because of what goes on in the Middle East, because of what's happening specifically with Israel and Palestine now, but also what happened in the early 2000s with America, with Afghanistan, with Iraq, when you talk about wars that are perpetrated on a certain type of people, it's very common nowadays for extremists, I would say, to attribute that to a genocidal thought pattern. To say that George W. Bush was complicit in genocide, even to say that Obama, this is how extreme the movement gets, Obama is complicit in genocide, right? I love the blank brush that'll paint the whole thing red, but when you think about it, I think we need to rein back in what the term means, because genocide was used in the term to describe what happened to the Jews in World War II, to describe what happened to the kulaks in Russia, to describe what happened with Mao. Everything that comes to a group versus another group, this is what's being described. It's not describing a higher power trying to come in and mediate an issue, which is really what everything in the Middle East has been. And even if you want to claim it a failure, which I certainly do, our actions in the Middle East have been nothing but a failure, in my opinion. And even that being said, what was the point? Was the point genocide? No, I couldn't disagree more. The point was to try to bring stability. The problem came when we started to realize, and our leaders started to realize, that stability ain't coming to this region, especially not by our hands. slowly we start to realize, start to pull out. It doesn't help when you realize 20 years later and then you get more of your troops killed, more people abandon the process, doesn't it? And that's what happened in Afghanistan for us, and it's unfortunate, right? But this is where, again, I'm not fully endorsing Trump because I find it hard to do so with some of the things that have happened, have transcribed over the past few years. But I couldn't want to vote for him anymore. Been persecuted by the courts, persecuted by the other side of the political aisle, fairly and unfairly, and now he's been shot at. And for him to survive that, if you haven't seen the picture of him holding up his fist after it, it is most certainly one of the most iconic images that I've been alive for to see as it was taken. Now, obviously I wasn't at the event, but for something like this to occur during my lifetime, again, it's unfortunate that I wasn't shocked by it, but it is astounding to live in that time. To be like, yeah, I have lived through the first assassination attempts in 1981. The implications, the broader implications of what this means. Let's dive a little bit deeper into this, because this is where my first thought went. When I first saw this, it wasn't shock. It wasn't, oh my goodness, I hope he's okay, because, well, he got shot in the ear. If he wasn't okay, then probably got other things to worry about. My first thought was, what is the reaction? Right. When an event like this happens, there's a lot of times, and this isn't necessarily always the case, but generally speaking, when you're talking about left and right, especially in American politics, a lot of times what we're talking about is a progressive part of American politics and a more conservative part of politics. And what I mean by this is progressives, mostly liberals. There's a lot of progressive conservatives as well, so don't get me wrong, but the majority are going to be progressive liberals. What they do is they change, right? And they might change policy, they might change tactics. One thing that I'm afraid of is that this push, and this isn't alluding to the actual shooter that pulled the trigger, but the rhetoric increase, the violence to come with it, right? Think back to 2020 and the riots that we had in our country, and for the left-wing media to say that it was mostly peaceful protests, right? So you think back to these times. I get afraid that it comes back around. I get afraid that there is a right-wing extremist, or even just another extremist in general, which is what it seems like this fellow down here was for. I'll give a little bit of background on that in a minute, but any extremist now to react and shoot someone on the other side, to go to their rally and try to pump a shot through their head. This is what I'm afraid of, because we were going good for, think back, well, that's 43 years we've gone without an attempt on our president's life. That doesn't mean we haven't had assassination attempts on other politicians. That's totally not what I'm saying. Just the presidential level. But even that is astounding based on, you look at 81, then you have to go back to 63, and then you have an attempt on Roosevelt. You have an attempt on Lincoln, of course, which succeeded in many attempts over that period of time. And to think that we got to a point where there wasn't a seriously considered attempt for 4+ decades until yesterday, which yesterday for me, it'll be 2 days ago for you guys now, getting released on Monday. It was impressive, but it was sad. The obvious scare for me is, the last one happened 43 years ago. There's nothing saying that the next one will happen in 3 months, 6 months, 2 months, 1 month. And God forbid you take this out of context and you think I'm supporting of this. God, no. God, no, it is the last thing I want. This is what I'm afraid of. This is why something like this is why the energy of calling someone Hitler, calling someone the end of democracy, which we've heard a ton. What is the biggest threat to democracy? It's Donald Trump. Can't think of something worse to say, because all you have to do is beat him at the ballot box. But the more you engage in this rhetoric, the more you actually, I think, play with fire. And I think that's what happened here. We're going to have to see. We'd have to see what the research comes up with. I think that Secret Service tactics are going to have to change. You're going to have to allow for preemptive shots, because if a threat is located, and we have seen tons of video, not all of it verified, so I won't post any of it there. We have seen video of, and I'm sure you guys have seen some of it too, video of people outside or in this rally pointing out the gun to the policemen and them doing nothing. That guy's up there. He has a gun. He has a gun. He has a gun. And then the shots roll out. There needs to be a change in tactics. If a threat is recognized, it needs to be diminished immediately. There cannot be a chance. Now, other further implications. Do I think that the security detail around Donald Trump is going to change after this? I think that's a stupid question, but I'm going to ask myself it anyway. My answer is yes. If you see the same security detail I think that Trump made a big mistake. One thing that people were pointing out was that there's quite a few people that are smaller than Trump on his team. In a way, there's not much you could do about that, but in another way, you can hire from the whole country, and we need to find some big bodies who can help out our man here. Because people who are shorter than him, people who can't cover him from a bullet. What's the point of calling the Secret Service? Now, do I think that Trump has the ability to keep this as unpolitical as possible? I do. This is where my hope comes in. Everybody's afraid of Trump's reaction. Everybody's afraid of, he had that quote where he said he was going to be dictator on day one just to make sure he solves the immigration crisis. It's been blown out of proportion. It's on almost every ad for Biden now at this point. But if he's able to rein that in, if he's able to keep that language out of his mouth, and if he's able to just demonstrate that he is willing to live in the middle, if anybody else is willing to fight it out there with him, I think he runs away with this race. And it would show me that he still has some political zeal left in him. He's not just running for his own personal gain, because I am still slightly afraid of that, to be completely honest with you. I think it's very possible that the man is hiding what his true intentions are. And I think that always has to be considered, but it's always got to be considered for every politician, right? The one thing that I'll always come back to is Trump at least tried to come through on as many of his campaign promises as you could. I've never seen a president actually hold true to those, right? Think about Biden. Is pot legal? No, not to my knowledge. Did he end up paying off student debt? No, not really. He gave some grants out, but so when you think about it, the total impact of these presidents, Trump has the chance to rework his legacy, right? Really become a loved president, loved by a lot of the country right now, supported by it. And I am glad to see that the overall rhetoric seemed to be hoping him well, because how do you hope anybody who just got shot? It will. There were quite a few people who did it. Quite a few people who did it. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. I'm just saying it should be directed at him getting better. I would hope that's how you feel. Moving on, what happens from here? I think that Trump owns it. I think that Trump can feel the sense and the tide shifting in his favor. I don't know why he would want to lose this race. He pretty much has his own livelihood at stake. He could, I believe, pardon himself, or at least get someone to pardon him. I think he's running away with it. I want to do a deeper show and hopefully get Andrew back on here to talk debates, talk a little bit deeper into that. But the debates really showed the difference in the stamina left in these two men. Now, they're both aged. In my opinion, they both should not be the forerunners of each party, but they are. And can't really change that now. Democrats are trying. They can't really change that now. So we're looking at Raw. And when we looked at that debate stage, there were, let's say, at least 7 to 10, and I listened to every moment of this, 7 to 10 instances where Joe Biden just lost his train of thought. He may have lost his breath. He may have lost his gaze in the crowd that wasn't there. Whatever it was at least 7 to 10 times, and it was sad. See him stumbling and just stopping. See him not be able to formulate his thought completely and just leave it hanging. It's sad. However, it's necessary. And this is a point that I think needs to be made, is that although Biden is so apparently incompetent, it's very possible that he doesn't think that's at all the case. It's very possible that he actually thinks that he's a champ right now, that he has a chance to run away with this shit. If that's the case, it's very possible that his handlers needed this situation, the debate debacle, in order to advance their theory that, hey, Joe, maybe you need to step aside, maybe you need to consider this. That doesn't mean he will. Just saying. It's very possible this man has an ego problem, and being in the United States, I can only imagine her ego is. Okay. So, lighter news. I want to talk about something kind of stupid. I want to talk about something now. It's been like a month since we came up, and there has been a joke that came out. Well, a joke, a meme, a person, really. And I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are. I've had this issue going on and off for maybe, the whole existence of my social media life, is that people who dedicate their time, people who dedicate their craft, not saying names, genuinely, if they're authentic, there's a lot of times that you see those people and they are just not growing. There's no stable growth. They may not grow for years, may not grow at all. And then there's the other side of social media that if you do one thing that's just stupid enough, just clickbaity enough, just funny enough, hits the right spot in the algorithm, you might set yourself up for life. And another one of these instances happened where it kind of made me want to bring this back up to you guys, or maybe bring it up to you guys for the first time because it's a sensation and it's only existed really in our world that the possibility exists for this. So let's talk about it. So if any of you haven't heard of this, I'll put a picture. I'm not going to put the video. This chick is going around known as the Hawk Tour Girl. This girl basically just responded to a street interviewer's question saying that the way that she would give oral sex. She's now famous. She's now doing deals at bars, deals at clubs, getting signed, doing podcasts, all this shit. It really makes me think to what our priorities are as a people. And this isn't even as a nation that we all know that social media is worldwide. It attracts attention from all over the place. So what is in our society that promotes something like a blowjob joke to be so much more worthwhile than someone, maybe giving their 2 cents on biology, someone giving their 2 cents on politics and the state of the world like us, someone who's working their ass off to give a better sports take than ESPN on a certain sport. But for that shit to get put down because it's not clickbaity enough, for it's not going to catch the algorithm, and yet we're going to give these random people who do something fucking stupid. And I think we can collectively agree that most of these people get viral for something just stupid, and the fact that they got viral is insane. As a society, what the fuck does that say? Right? And again, that's not American, that's worldwide. We're talking about people as a whole, what people like, what people enjoy. They love the stupidity. Apparently, we love the virality of something that's so clickbaity that there doesn't have to be any sense of it at all. It could just be jibber. I'm interested to see how this phenomenon carries on, right? Because there's only so much money in the world. You think about how much money athletes are making now, how much money movie stars are making. These random fucking idiots, in my opinion, sorry, excuse my language, these morons to get signed doing 30 grand at clubs, signings, all this shit. Because you made a joke. One joke, not like a sequence of jokes, not like a comedian, like you made a joke. I just want to know what that's like. I want to know why. I want to know what, again, as a society, is that really like what we push for? We want that. I've been Sal. I've been your host. I hope you enjoyed the show today. I hope you guys are having the right thoughts and having a little bit of compassion towards what happened over the weekend, this weekend, and otherwise have been staying up to date a little bit on what's going on and try not to make it too crazy and too much of your life, because just to be honest with you, trying to keep up with what's going on here nowadays, like I've said it in many shows before, but the speed at which things happen nowadays, it's hard to pay attention to everything. If you're able to just get a little bit of the attention span booster, if you're able to just get let in on some of the knowledge every single week, whether it's through shows like this or maybe you have 90 other shows you tune in every other week, it's those type of things that I think keep us all informed and keep us integrated at least a little bit into what the fuck is going on in this crazy world and country that we live in, because there's just too much to follow all on your own. It's what you have conversations for. It's what you have beer for. If you enjoyed the show, I want you to go hit us up at meetthepatriotsmedia.com. Over there we got patron programs, shop. You can go buy premium episodes. You can go check out regular episodes. You can go say hi. Whatever you want to do over there, go hit us up. Let us know what you think of the show in the comments below. And other than that, I'll probably see you in a couple weeks, see if we get Andrew on for a little interview.
I wish I were the fucking
Peace out.
I wanna be something, not nothing. Trapped inside my dream and I'm running away from these demons. But the feeling's so good, I'ma keep dreaming.